Yeah, hello and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of R3. Over there at the pond is Rish.
And back over there is Roland.
Rish, great news this morning,
Wait, hold on.
and
Let me get my evil.
let me, yeah, let me announce it. Let me announce it.
By all means.
Um, Arrest warrant has been issued. Vladimir Putin for war crimes. So he's not the first one in the
No.
ongoing in the ongoing in the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, but certainly the most prolific person that has been issued an arrest warrant. So maybe run us through, Rish, and what's the interesting story? What's the complications? What's going on?
Well, I mean, we all knew he was guilty. I mean, okay. Technically, this is an arrest warrant. He hasn't went to trial. He'll probably never go to trial. But just the fact that there's an arrest warrant's awesome. So this came down from the International Criminal Court. It's an open arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. It is for war crimes and atrocities, and also including the deportation of children's back to Russia. So basically, the international community has come to an agreement where if you illegally invade a country and steal its children to take them back to your country to indoctrinate them to potentially fight for your wars because you're ethnically the same, and to you that means something because you're kind of a fascist asshole, you can get arrested.
I mean, you
That
don't
about
you don't
sum it
get
up,
arrested
Roland?
for general fascism, but when you look, I look at it from this point of view. This is
No, I was just pointing out
literally
that he's a dick.
with a small d.
Yeah.
So no, let's go back being factual. This is literally the first step in a situation what I find akin to the Nuremberg trials. Yeah, with all the criticism those trials have rightfully or not received, um, the idea that you just can't do whatever the heck you want, there is an accountability at the international level. I mean, just like you said, I don't think he will ever stand trial. Very
Interpol's
much.
not arresting Putin in Russia. There's there will be bodies
Well,
out.
first
No.
of all, the I think it was Lavrov, the foreign minister, has already said we don't recognize the authority of that court. That was even before the court made the decision. Lavrov said we don't recognize your authority. So, I think
Yeah.
the biggest problem in the international community for this particular situation is that also the U.S. doesn't recognize that court.
No,
So
it's like
there is that.
us, North Korea. We
So
just we
there is
don't.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is always the kind of thinking, if you do not recognize this court, what moral authority do you have to suggest the court should do X, Y, Z? But anyways, there is a broad consensus, like you said, across the world that I think saying this is wrong is not strong enough of a word, but somewhere between this is wrong and Putin is a dick and should be punished, somewhere there, more towards the D side,
Hmm.
is the actual truth, and I think it comes at a very good timing because it shows another person with morally questionable conduct that yes, the international community can make these decisions. And when you look at it from this point of view, when was Putin the last time in one of the so-called Western civilized countries?
Yeah.
And where is the next G20 summit where Putin said he wants to go? He wants to go.
Because they're not
So
letting him go to G7s.
We are not letting him go to
No.
G7 or G8, G8+1 or whatever. Yeah, we have
Right.
basically
Well,
told
it's the
Putin,
original
"You are not
G7. I mean,
welcome." Yeah.
yeah.
So now there's this interesting scenario. Let's just say this summit was in Germany, the US, or somewhere, and Putin comes. There is something called diplomatic immunity.
Oh yeah.
So there's that. Then the second thing is diplomatic immunity is usually granted by the hosting nation, which could very well say we do not offer you diplomatic immunity, don't come. And the usual practice is this announcement comes, and then you have 30 days to bugger off, or you will be treated like an ordinary person in that country. So, but again, first of all, I do believe Putin is smart enough to be on a plane before that happens. Number one, I think he is smart enough not to go on an outbound plane because my scenario is that there is somebody in his wider area of recognition that will make sure that that plane does not arrive.
Well, if
That's
you're
my
a
kind of thing.
journalist, don't fly over Belarus. If
Yeah,
you're Putin, don't fly over Helsinki.
there is these kind of places where you just don't go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
When
for
you
you this time of year.
what we said yesterday, one of the things that has transpired as well this morning, not as big as news as the arrest warrant or the banking crisis, but it is now basically confirmed that the Chinese government has sent Putin about 1,000 hunting rifles, basically unlicensed copies of the American M16 and body armor. So now my kind of thinking, yes, by the letter of the law, this is a clear violation. The problem is the violation is rather small. I mean, what do you do on a country level? What do you do with 1,000 assault rifles? Not that much. Yeah.
No.
Equally, those copies are well, let's just say the American M16 and the Russian AK are very, very different. Yeah,
Yes.
they are not interchangeably usable. Then
Not
the
at
other
all.
is the M16 in particular. Even the original one, yeah, the copy will be worse. Yeah,
So is
even
it a copy of the original M16 or is it a copy of the M4? Because the US military hasn't
M16.
used the M16 prevalently in decades.
Well, interesting story there. It is an M16. It also is it's the full size, and an
Okay.
M16 needs to be cleaned on a very very regular basis with very
Uh,
very specialized stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So any
Ask anyone who went to Vietnam before they
ask
got their
any
cleaning kits.
soldier,
Poor
ask
guys.
any
Jeez.
soldier, and
Uh,
there is this thing, and one of my friends who is a former Marine confirmed this. You can recognize a Marine or a soldier that has been in combat before they eat, sleep, drink. They clean their damn rifle. That's the first thing they do. So, and as you mentioned, Vietnam soldiers were told they don't have to clean the rifle; it's a self-cleaning rifle. And in the muddy,
that's
moist
not
environment,
correct.
yeah,
Yeah, in a jungle. Yeah.
in the jungle with inferior powder in the bullets, the rifle basically fouled up, lots of residue in the rifle, and stopped working. So
Yeah.
in the middle of a firefight, you have to disassemble the rifle, and this how does the report I read say this normally leads to the death of the person that has to disassemble their rifle. So what I found interesting, number one, those 1,000 rifles are yeah,
Hmm.
it's basically she sticking up the finger to us saying, what are you gonna do? And what we should be doing is to start sanctioning China. End of the
And you
story.
know what? I bet Xi and Putin will have plenty of time to talk to this because it's confirmed next week Xi is going to meet Vladimir Putin in Moscow.
Well,
The
one
devilish duo.
I'm not going to comment because at the end of the day, I think one mistake Western countries have made is to think too much and worry too much. What does Vladimir Putin say, think, want? What does she want, say, and think? No.
I think they're different things. I think the only thing they want the same is for Ukraine to go better so that China can still prop up its idea of Taiwan.
Well, that is one thing. Again, I think we discussed this a couple of
Too
weeks
big
ago.
to
Not going
fail.
to happen.
China needs to bail out Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Well, it is ideologically a big problem for Xi. Yeah. So first of all, he doesn't want Putin to finally get smart and realize, well, the Chinese are after Siberia. Yeah, that's one of the things they're after. The other thing is they are both a bit dependent on each other in this current situation. Nobody else likes them. Yeah, plain and brutally simple. If well, in essence, what has gone through and what must be blatantly obvious to both of them, they can't win in these scenarios, and they can't afford to fail either. So they are stuck. I think for Xi it is even more obvious on the economic side that you can't piss off the very people that have been financing your economic success. And
Bite the hand that
once you do
feeds.
that, once you do that, you show how completely detached you are from reality if you blame these people yet again. So it is a thing that really I really can't get my head around. You see, this my experience with the Wu Maos, the Chinese propagandists. They come say something stupid. You tell them no bullshit, f off. They come back with more bullshit because they can't lose face. They can't lose against the foreigner. Yeah, you smack them down again and again and again. Yeah, so they keep losing face and they try harder, more of the same, and it's not going to work. Or what in military terms, what we discussed in squad 1 assaults the position, squad 2 does the same, squad 3, and so on and so on. So the other side of the story, and this is why I almost feel pity with Xi and Putin. Almost, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, is even if they made a 180-degree U-turn, it's not going to change the situation because the things that need to change are not going to happen. So tough luck. And they are between a number of really bad decisions. So let's just put it that way. And in terms of China and economy, let's just say there was from now until the next second a complete 180-degree U-turn, and there were guarantees or whatever. Your investment is safe. You as a person are safe. We will not blame you for bullshit. Yeah. We will respect your human rights. We stop the atrocities in Xinjiang and whatever. Now you put that out, and even under a new government, my question is, would you believe that? The answer is no, plain and simple. So or in terms of Putin, he says we will withdraw from the occupied areas, we will pay reparations, we will rebuild Ukraine, and yeah, yeah. Would you believe that? You would be asking in both cases, what are these two guys hiding? How are they trying to screw me? Yeah. And
I'd be
you
wondering how
would
many
prepare
landmines
accordingly.
Russia had in stockpiles, because however many were used to be in stockpile, that's how many are in Ukraine as they retreat.
Ex exactly. That's well, it's one of the minor news items on German news is Ukraine has a mine problem. Yeah. So when you see
That things like this normally lead to that. Area denial is a very effective form of combat.
it's a very Russian form of combat. So when you look at how many mines they used in Afghanistan, and Britain is not necessarily a country that is known for its mine warfare. Yeah, I mean in terms of anti-personnel or anti-tank mines, uh, they do or did have what we called miners or tunnelers in World War One to dig under the German trenches and blow them up from below. So,
Sappers.
yeah, they are also called sappers. Yes.
Well, we
So,
came
yeah.
from the islands,
So, the amount of landmines that the British and the Argentinians used in the Falklands is tremendous. Now, go to a country like Russia, who is known to be very, very active in mine warfare. Yeah. So the other side of the story is one of the countries that has been not that actively using mines for quite a long time, but had and has the means to saturate an area with anti-personnel and anti-tank mines very, very quickly, is the Germans. So we have a system. Name escapes me for a moment. I think Scorpion, where the thing goes out, erects the missile launcher, and saturates an area of X amount of normal European football fields with anti-personnel or anti-tank mines. Half an hour later, those mines are active and the area is denied. So we did this kind of stuff to, if the Russians are coming, so we are going to saturate the area they are going through. We knew the areas they were going to go through with those mines and bleed the first echelon, make them slow down. So, but really, it's a thing with this uh, with this arrest warrant, yeah, that we are starting to show, or the Western or the global system, the global justice and value system is starting to show its teeth, which is a good thing, because for the last 30, 40 years, it did not. Yeah, it did show a bit of a bite in terms of the worst offenders of the Yugoslavia, of the Balkans civil war, were prosecuted. There is, however, a lot of people that should be standing trial across the world that are not even having an outstanding warrant against them.
Right.
So there is that question in terms of not only the International Court of Justice, but the UN was very quick to condemn the invasion in 1950 in Korea and to send combat troops. Hasn't happened since. So my question is, when will the international community come back to a consensus? This is how the world should be running, aka peaceful. Yeah. So that is a thing. And another problem I see, even if there was a renewed consensus about that, is we need a new view on what constitutes warfare. We have this old-fashioned, and I say old-fashioned deliberately, idea of war is when soldiers of two different countries are shooting at each other. I, as a country, I don't need to put soldiers into your country. I can do many, many things without soldiers and without bullets that will completely disable you for any kind of armed conflict, and even to the point where you don't want to go into combat with me, even though you are the superior force.
I'll crash your economy. I'll stage coups. I'll fund insurgents, and I'll deny it was me the whole time.
Well, there is this type of warfare, and mentioning Xi, there is now a couple of books regarding hybrid and stealth warfare, originated by both American as well as Chinese military professionals. And when you look at what the Chinese are thinking about modern warfare, it is, yeah, I mean, we Germans have experience with total war, but we are kindergarten compared to what the playbook of the Chinese government or the Chinese military constitutes as warfare.
Yeah. No, it's just, I mean, and now you see everything. It's just like all these problems that the world had. Well, it's the same with this. Like now they're on the front page. It's not even front page. They're beamed into your ears. You know, if you have the Windows glasses still, I mean, those were a thing for all of a minute, but you're just bombarded with this stuff. Like we literally, I've seen, I don't know, maybe 14 different replays of the Russian jet spraying the Reaper drone, the US Reaper drone in the Black Sea with fuel. You didn't used to see stuff like this. So now it's so in your face, you have to redefine warfare because like the small insurgencies, all these little covert things and these small scale buildups, they didn't make it back home.
Yeah,
And now it makes it to you before it's even had a chance to be analyzed and filtered and find out what really happened there.
yeah,
It's just raw information that can be vastly misinterpreted by
yeah.
people who are not experts in the matter.
And you see, this is the kind of this information warfare is funny enough now going with this it was a Chinese general who wrote this brief, this report, this idea of modern warfare, and information warfare was one of the themes. Interestingly, that pamphlet that basically you can I don't know if you can get it in China these days, but up until very recently you could actually read these kind of pamphlets quite openly. And the reason for these studies and new forms of warfare, hold on to your horses, is acknowledging the inferiority of the Chinese armed forces over our main competitor, the United States. So basically, Chinese military professionals acknowledge that in traditional combat operations, the US has the superior forces.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from the Chinese do have a warrior tradition. Yeah, Sun
And our
Tzu and
Navy
so on.
does go everywhere, and we have more tonnage. They're not set to overtake us by tonnage till 2450.
Right.
But
You
speaking
can
of
have,
Chinese and information, I got a question for you, my guy.
yeah, go
So
ahead.
they're pushing for more bans after TikTok was caught data mining keystrokes. There's more embedded software from TikTok that's in, and other applications do have embedded software and other stuff, but TikToks are logging keystrokes so they can get
Yeah.
passwords, they can get all sorts of stuff, and they've been spying on journalism. So
Not
more
only
push for
journalists.
bans. Are you seeing push for bans in Europe, or
Yes.
you were in China? What's going
Short
on with
version.
TikTok and the PLA? Because it
Right.
seems like TikTok is MI6 for PLA.
Interesting. No, it's very interesting from the factual
Fuck, dude.
analysis as well. Well, first of all, there is no such thing as a private company in China. Or we as
Privately, the
Westerners,
government.
we need to understand. Well, you see, it is much more perfidious or pervasive in its nature. Let's start at this. Every Chinese company beyond a certain size, I think it is 5 or 20 people. The exact numbers, you would have to be a Chinese constitutional expert, but beyond a certain number of employees, you need to have a designated member in your staff that does all party business. By law, by Chinese constitution, every single Chinese citizen has to promote socialism with Chinese characteristics and obey the orders of the government. It is formulated differently, but essentially, if the Chinese government directly or indirectly contacts a student, Deng Li in the US studying in the chemistry department and tells them steal that kind of information, then Li Deng has to do that. Or upon return to China, there is some serious re-education. And spinning further from that, there has been cases where students or ordinary members of the public have been coerced into becoming part of Chinese spy operations. For example, I mean the classic operation that people may think about is using a beautiful woman. Yeah, so has been a Russian tactic during the Cold War as well. But
it was happening before them.
It has happened before. So it is just these things that happen. But on the issue of TikTok, first of all, number one, there is no such thing as a private enterprise in China. Every citizen, every organization has to, when requested, cooperate with the Chinese government, Chinese security services, and so on. Now, in terms of TikTok and social media, number one, yes, currently here in the UK, we are discussing a ban. It is already banned from government phones. I want to throw this out. Immediately after the US banned it for government employees, Chinese propagandists, haha, America is so weak, they have to ban our stuff, they are so insecure. Response from Western people, and I actually like that, is, well, how about Western social media in China? Come back to us when that is allowed.
Yeah.
So there is this thing, you wouldn't be allowed. That's another thing, how universities have been infiltrated and coerced to cooperate. The Confucius Institutes promoting Chinese culture. No, that's not promoting Chinese culture. What's going on there? Again, this is overseen by certain arms of the Chinese security services.
Right.
So, in essence, you wouldn't be allowed to run the George Washington Institute of Liberty in China. You wouldn't be allowed. Yeah.
No.
And if you had this mad idea while you were in China, you would be arrested and out of China very, very quickly. So the thing with TikTok is, Western employees have confirmed it, that Chinese developers have 100% access to any kind of data on any kind of server that they want. If you have TikTok in the States as an American citizen, the American version of TikTok, then Chinese security operative in company ByteDance can access all your data. So then these apps, TikTok, WeChat, and so on, they all in one form or another send data directly or indirectly to servers in China that the Chinese government has access to. So there is a security risk for government employees. Then there is, it's not tinfoil hat thing. You can listen to people when the phone is near them, without them noticing. The thing is, with TikTok, it's not only the software side that is programmed to send your data to China. It is also the hardware side of the phones made in China that is open for such an infiltration. And let's just say that if any actor, government or private, has shown their willingness to use software to illegally intrude into your personal privacy, do you trust them with the hardware?
Right.
That is the question for me. And the ban of Chinese social media, not only TikTok, I widen it to WeChat and QQ and all the other stuff, should stop operating once people leave China. We, as Western societies, need to make sure of that in terms of reciprocity. What? Look, again, as you said, their country, their law, fine. So you ban Facebook, you ban Twitter, you don't let people in your country access that. That's your thing. Okay, it's our
Right.
thing to do the same thing to you.
Yep.
So there is this form where Western countries have been taken for a ride, essentially. And going back to more recent history and the trade war still ongoing and intensifying, the idea of Trump was not, I want to strike a trade deal with the Chinese. I mean, Trump is not that stupid that he thinks the Chinese are going to keep their part of the deal.
No.
And the Chinese knew from day one they are not going to, and they haven't. So this thing was solidly, in my opinion, instigated to make it so that Trump can say, see, if you put your foot down and say, no, this is what's going to happen, then the Chinese will come to the negotiating table. And it is the same story with the bully. The bully does not stop bullying you until you smack them in the gob. Never mind the result that they will still beat you up.
Yeah.
But now they know, well, it's not going to go over peacefully. So, and in this sense, what I said in a previous episode is, if the US or Western countries in general would make it so that TikTok, Chinese version of TikTok, WeChat, stop working in our countries, then the Chinese government has Chinese people have two choices. Number one, get a VPN, make it work. Yeah. Or step back and allow Western social media in China. So I mean, at the end of the day, and this is why I can't understand it at this point. The vast majority of Chinese, number one, doesn't understand what we are saying on our social media. Number two, the rest of them, the majority of people who understand what's going on, don't believe it. Yeah, a lot of them are for too long behind the firewall under the regime of this government, that if you were to say the sky is blue and the Chinese government says no, it ain't so, they would believe the Chinese government. So it is.
We're not
it is a
drowning.
situation. You see, I don't understand at this point with the control that's being exercised or that has been exercised for donkey's years, that such a fuss is being made about social media. So yes, I do understand what's going on, and I think it's a good thing that. Give me one moment. Oh yeah, TikTok. I think it is overdue. I think it
You
is
all right there,
overdue.
bud?
No, I was not on
just
TikTok.
kick in.
No.
Yeah.
No, I get messages from my CIA handler. I have to keep China down. So,
Whatever.
oh God,
You
what
eating
a
any
bunch of trouble.
strange chocolate bars lately?
Uh, no, really, no. This is a thing that I think is overdue. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the moment Western social media was banned, we should have been ready and willing to do the same thing.
Consequences and repercussions.
Is actions have consequences, number one. And particularly those Chinese social media are used to exercise control over people, Chinese people and Western people that use them, to spread misinformation, to to exercise control. So, for example, when I was in China during COVID lockdown, we all had to have a health code, a part of the WeChat app, yeah, that says this person doesn't have COVID. Now, wait, it gets better, and this is where it becomes interesting for WeChat. The WeChat company is a private company, yeah. So there are cases, documented cases, where people complained about certain stuff certain government officials did in their area, and there is officially a way you can complain in Beijing. You can go to the government and complain about stuff. Yeah, but everyone who did that, the people that came to Beijing were arrested. Yeah. And the people that didn't go to Beijing but complained suddenly had a red health code. So were not allowed to get out of their house. Yeah.
So they
And
so they basically locked them all up.
yeah, one time is
They
a
locked them up
coincidence.
without having to feed them.
Yeah. Yeah. Once is, yeah, it happens. Twice is a coincidence, but hundreds of people reporting the same thing, that is a clear sign that no, these companies are not private companies. They are extensions of the Chinese government in one way or the other. Yes, the Chinese government is not beyond using personal data and manipulating data into getting what they want. And that is a situation. You see, we Western people, we approach any kind of situation like we don't do this kind of stuff, like hostage diplomacy. Yeah, we don't arrest foreign citizens without probable cause, put them in jail because we want something from their government. China has a track record of doing exactly that.
And Russia.
So, and when you start challenging these kind of things, now the next thing is Chinese police stations. Well, the UK security services don't want to shut them down because China will retaliate.
Mm-hmm.
And the way this situation should be handled, in my opinion, is there was an African country, and during COVID, a lot of black people were kicked out of their flats in southern China. So one African ambassador said publicly, well, there is so and so many thousand Chinese people living in my country at home. That's all they said. The next day, all the people, black people, were back in their flats. They were still being visited every other day and subject to abhorrent behavior from Chinese security organs.
Yeah.
And there is an incident that one has been popularized on via Facebook. There was an incident where two black people showed up at the hospital, one dying, and the other guy said, "Yes, I have the money. Help this person." Yeah.
All right.
So if, spoiler alert, if you bring someone into a hospital in China, it is your problem to pay the bill.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why nobody helps anyone in China in terms of medical help. So
they just want them to die?
that is
They already
the end
have an
result.
age demographic problem, though.
That is the end result. What happens? Yeah, people don't take responsibility for each other because, well, I will be held liable. Or another common thing: traffic accidents. The person causing the accident escapes, runs away, and you help the person. Now it's your problem. Yeah, yeah. These are things. These are things. There is one thing. What? Yeah. A guy turned out to be a huge asshole to me and others, but he said something. He has been in China for X amount of years, and he came with a friend. So the friend lived with someone Chinese. No, sorry. The friend lived with another foreigner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And that person, they lived in separate apartments, yeah. And while she was visiting that person, the person died on an overdoses of drugs.
Okay.
And well, you and I would call the police. Yeah, this person died, drug usage. Yeah. Well, yes, you would.
Nope. Nope.
So no,
No.
in
I grew
all
up in a rough
fairness,
neighborhood. Sometimes you mind your own fucking business.
that is exactly what's happening here. The
If
guy
they're
said,
alive, you try to help. If they're already dead, no.
well, that is the thing. That is the thing. What would have happened if that other person didn't make a run for it? Yeah, make sure nobody sees you leaving. They would have been accused of giving that person drugs or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
So these are the things that happen in Chinese law. Well, Chinese law is law on paper. What happens at the police or in the courtroom is something else. That is one thing. And the laws and interpretation of the laws are very often very strange from a Western perspective. Like I just said, um, there's other cases that have been publicized. Chinese taxi driver hits the Chinese wife of a Western man for
Right.
God knows what it is. The guy goes in between, pushes the guy away, the Chinese taxi driver. The Western guy gets arrested and has to pay the medical bill of the Chinese taxi driver. And I'm like, what the F? So another thing, a Chinese couple was arrested, I think, in the States for having a fight, and the man slapped the woman. Yeah.
Okay.
So in China, nobody gives a damn. Yeah. If that happens in public, nobody gives a damn. So there is nobody that will go in between and say, hey, yeah. There is no such thing as domestic violence. Yeah. And I mean, there is reasons why the marriage rate is so low and the divorce rate is so high. So
Yeah, it
I
sounds like
have
it.
I have a Chinese friend, and she is divorced, and she is divorced because of domestic violence. So there is that. But no, again, this is just because you, I, or Western people in general think, oh, we don't do that kind of stuff, doesn't mean somebody on the other side of the world doesn't think, well, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do this. Yeah. We need to start. I think one example to stay within the domain of warfare and history is one of the things that the U.S. military had to learn in World War II is how the Japanese conduct warfare was completely different from what the US thought would be civilized warfare.
Well, a
So
more European style conflict.
yeah. So this is a kind of thinking we need to adapt. Not only that kind of thinking we need to adapt. Just because we say it ain't nice doesn't mean other people won't do it. Yeah.
Right.
The other thing is we need to be aware that there is now different forms of warfare, information warfare, for example, and that we need to be ready and willing to escalate certain forms of interaction between one another. And in terms of that, I actually mean, yes, ban TikTok, 100% ban, make WeChat the next one. So within 24 hours, you will either have the firewall down, or Chinese people will start using VPNs in and outside of China. So, and that is the dilemma. We in other areas, for example, economics, we have started pushing Chinese, or in particular Xi's buttons, to let him make the worst possible decision, because we know how he is going to react. Yeah. So he is making the situation worse for himself. And in terms of that, he won't decide that yes, Chinese people now can use VPN. He won't decide that we drop the firewall. Yeah. Uh, he will escalate in one form or another, and maybe do something stupid. And it is also ironic that we are looking at it now, or some people are now looking at it from a perspective as in martial arts, where you use the enemy's inertia against them. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is, like I said, yes, it would mean that I can't, or Chinese people per se, can't talk to their relatives back in China, which will cause a massive uprising in China and abroad. So yeah, that is that regarding TikTok.
An interesting time we live in. Well, that's as
Absolutely.
good a place as any. We'll
Yeah,
be back again with another one coming up soon. I'm Rich. He's rolling.
and we will see you soon.